everybody. We're back. Another episode of the Skooled Millennial podcast. So excited today. We're going to be talking about something everybody can relate to, and that's money, but specifically as it relates to the student loan crisis, because it actually is a crisis now. It is stunting the growth and the development of so many young adults all across our country. And so I think it's super perfect that we have somebody here who knows all about student loan debt and personal finance. Her name is Danetha Doe. She is a personal finance expert. She is also a blogger. She is the creator of Money and Mimosas. And she's also now the star of a new reality show on Crackle. It is called Going From Broke, which is produced by Ashton Kutcher. And this is a show where she helps young adults tackle their student loan debt and take control of their financial lives and their financial future. So Danetha, please introduce yourself and just elaborate a little more on exactly what it is that you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nia, for having me on your podcast and introducing me to your community. Like you mentioned, I am a blogger. I'm a financial journalist. I'm an author, as well as some people would consider me a personal finance expert. I started Money and Mimosas about 8 years ago when I was going through a pretty tough transition in my career. I had studied economics in school, had started to work up the ranks in my accounting career. I decided to pursue a career in accounting. And I was really at a crossroads in my life where I was questioning everything in my career. What was I doing with my life? Where did I want to be in terms of physical location? Where did I want to be in terms of how I was working towards my purpose? What even was my purpose? And Money and Mimosas was really born out of that desire to connect with myself and to understand how I could create financial freedom on my own terms. I really felt uninspired and creatively unfulfilled, and I did not want to believe that I had to sacrifice my avocado toast and my joy for life in order to reach this so-called thing called financial freedom, which was the lesson or the teachings of a lot of financial experts that I was looking to. So Money and Mimosas was born out of that desire, that yearning that I had, and also my girlfriends had too, of trying to create a life on our own terms and be financially responsible while doing it.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people are working towards. So kudos to you for having accomplished that and taking that leap of faith. But before all of that, you were an NFL cheerleader, were you not?
I was an NFL cheerleader. Yes, it's
How
funny.
did you go from being a cheerleader to now a personal finance expert?
Well, it's funny. I became an NFL cheerleader without any dance experience. So I auditioned to become an NFL cheerleader. I cheered for the Indianapolis Colts for 2 seasons while the amazing Peyton Manning was there. And I showed up for the auditions on a whim. I saw the ladies cheering on the field one day and I thought, oh my gosh, that would be so cool just to be a part of the audition process. I never thought in a million years that I would make it. I just wanted the experience. I really wanted to do my makeup, do my hair, get all dolled up, learn some dances, meet some amazing women, and the audition process ended up being about 8 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and I kept making it each round. Every week they would cut a few more women and I just kept making it. I was
so what were you thinking like this whole time?
I was just having fun. I was just having fun. And honestly, I think that's what the judges saw, that here's this woman who clearly could use some help with understanding 8 counts and understanding how to pick up dances, but she's just having a lot of fun and she's really enjoying the experience. And because of that, I didn't feel any pressure. I wasn't stressed. And it's a pretty anxiety-ridden experience to go through the audition process. And I just focused on the joy of it because I really didn't believe or think that I was going to make it. So
that must have taken some of the pressure off of you.
Absolutely. And so when you ask, how did I go from NFL cheerleader to financial expert, I had studied accounting. I studied economics in school and that's when I cheered in the NFL. And so I've always been someone that liked both. I always loved my art. I have an artistic side, I feel, a creative side. And then I also have an affinity for for numbers, specifically money. Some people will say, oh, you must love math. No, I love money. I love
Don't
counting.
we all?
I love counting dollar bills. I don't know if I could do
Right.
calculus. But yeah, so the transition for me, there wasn't really ever a transition because I was always doing both. And I always loved having an outlet for both, whether it was my financial side or my creative side.
Oh, that is super cool. I had no idea you had cheering experience because your bio says you were a dancer. So I just assumed that you'd been dancing all your life, because who just walks onto an audition field for the NFL to be a cheerleader and just makes it? That's crazy.
I think it was crazy. Looking back on it, I'm so surprised at the gumption I had. I was, thinking back, I'm like, wow, as an 18, 19-year-old, and like, you just showed up with no qualms. And
it was a foreshadowing of the ambition that you would have later on in your life, I think.
I believe so. And that's also what I hope is infused through Money and Mimosas. I call myself a dancer because I choose to wear that identity. I call myself a writer because I choose that identity. And I feel that that is available to all of us. We can choose any identity that we want. It doesn't have to just be one. It could be a multitude of things. And if we just step into that identity and that role, we embody it and we can exude that. Regardless of what others may say, you don't have to become an NFL cheerleader in order to call yourself a dancer. Right. I go to these awesome heels classes where you dance in heels in the Bay. I live in the Bay Area, and I go to these classes, and everyone in the room is a dancer, regardless of if they've had so-called professional experience. So I really hope that that is a message that comes through in Money and Mimosas, that we can choose whatever identity we want. And in doing so, that's really how you carve out your path to financial freedom.
So let's get right into it, because this is the crux of what we're talking about today. So one of the topics on Going From Broke tackles, obviously student loan debt, but financial responsibility, right? And so research shows that as of 2019, borrowers between the ages of 25 to 34, a large portion of millennials, they had $497.6 billion in outstanding student loan debt. That included 15.1 million borrowers. And this is just something that, again, has stunted the development and the growth of so many people and so many young adults who feel like they can't really get their life started because they have to worry about, how am I going to make my student loan payment and pay my bills? And how am I going to, have a mimosa and avocado toast and pay my bills? I've worked so hard. I've done everything everybody told me I should ever do. Where is this going? When will I be able to reap the fruits of my labor? So my question to you is, what advice can you give millennials who feel as if they're drowning in debt and really cannot get their life started because of it?
This is such an important conversation to have, and especially as we head into the 2020 presidential election year. This is a conversation that many of the candidates, the Democratic candidates right now, are having in the upcoming primaries, but we'll continue to have that going into the next election. And it is an important conversation to have because I want us all to take a step back. It is impacting individuals on an individual level, and it's also impacting our national economy. It's holding back our ability as a nation to truly prosper in a lot of different ways on an economic level and a sociological level as well, because this burden is not just the financial piece, it's an emotional and psychological burden. A lot of us are walking around with stress and anxiety and unable to focus and produce in the way that we know that we're capable of doing. And the millennial generation is the most educated generation. We are the brightest of the brightest within the United States. And a lot of us are, to your point, feeling like we are unable to truly reap the fruits of our labor because we have so much debt to pay back. And my first piece of advice to your question, the total numbers in terms of the student loan debt within the country, thank you for sharing the millennial piece, the total amount is $1.5 trillion. That is, 10 years ago, that total was 150 billion. So in 10 years, it has 10x'd. And the number of people that it impacts is 44 million Americans. And 40% of those have defaulted, which means that they are not able to make any payments. And the numbers are actually much higher than 40% because that 40% doesn't include those of us that are in income-based repayment plans or zero-based repayment plans, because we're still trying to get on our feet financially to get to a place where we can make some sort of monthly payment. And so I would say to any millennial or anyone that's listening, because it's not just millennials, it's also their parents that may have co-signed on these loans that are impacted. If you're listening to this and you feel stuck and you feel like you are between a rock and a hard place, as tough as it is, try to take a step back and realize you are not alone in this, because that is one of the biggest reasons why this debt continues to grow, is because a lot of us hold a lot of shame and don't talk about it. Once we start talking about it, we'll start to realize that the system is in fact rigged. Those of us that study the system are very much aware of the fact that we should not have this debt problem. The cost of school tuition in some cases has risen 200%. Keep in mind, wages year over year only rise 0.3%. Inflation is at 2%. So the cost of tuition is outpacing our ability to earn and outpacing the cost of living. Anything else that we pay money for isn't rising at the same rate as tuition. Why is tuition rising so quickly? Well, there have been legislative and systemic regulations put into place so that schools and student loan lenders such as Sallie Mae and Navient have been able to practice predatory lending, have been able to institute predatory lending practices. And so a lot of millennials, a lot of the talk within the financial education space is that millennials need to figure out how to make more money or there's a lot of blame that's put on the millennial shoulders. However, this is a system where it's completely built so that you are not able to get ahead. I was talking to one, it's completely built that way.
That is really important. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, please. I can go on and on about this because it infuriates me so much, the lack of information that's shared, because the onus is put on the backs of the victims. I see those of us who had to take out student loans. I mean, let's think about it, Nia. We were taught, go to school, do a really good job, get a great education. Once you graduate, you're going to have an amazing job and you'll be able to contribute back to society. And on top of that, you'll be able to create your path to financial independence, financial freedom, whatever that looks like to you. Maybe it's a home in New Jersey, or it's a condo in Boston, or it's a second home in the Bahamas. Whatever you want, you'll be able to do that because you put in the work, the hard work that it takes to go through school. Well, the cost of school has far outpaced your ability to create financial independence or financial freedom. I was talking to a gentleman the other day who covered this cost for his kids. So he's a baby boomer age and his kids are millennials. His student loan payments for them are $3,000 per month.
Wait, what? Just one person?
He's covering two of his kids. He has two children.
Okay.
And so one monthly student loan payment for one of the children is $2,000. The other is $1,000. So he's making a payment of $3,000 per month to pay back these student loans. That's more than a lot of people's mortgages.
Are these kids still in school, or do they graduate?
They graduated. He decided as a father that he wanted to cover their schooling. And so he's paying back their student loans, and the monthly cost for them is $3,000. And that's not unheard of.
First of all, I have to take a step back because me and my husband talk about how much we have in student loan debt, and we're like, this just may never get paid off. But I can't imagine paying that much money a month.
We had one student on Going From Broke. So I worked with Going From Broke, the TV show, it's 10 episodes where I and my co-host work with 10 millennials to get them on the path to financial freedom. A lot of them do have student loan debt, so that was a big part of the conversation. How do I balance these monthly student loan payments with my rent, with food, with transportation, with the idea that I may want to own a home in the future and will need to start saving up for a down payment for that. Heaven forbid I want to go out and hang out with my friends at any point in my life. So I have to figure out how to manage that with entertainment costs. So one of the guests that we had on the show, her name's Amanda. She was working 3 jobs. So she was bartending, dog walking, and then anything else that she could pick up on the side. Her dream is to become an actress. So she moved to LA, but she's got to pay bills. So she's doing all of these other jobs while trying to fit in auditions, trying to figure out how to make this dream happen. Her monthly student loan payment is $1,100 per month.
Mm-hmm.
That is incredibly expensive for any person, let alone someone who's 23 years old, living in a really expensive city, and just trying to make ends meet. And that is something that a lot of us have been faced with. These really high student loan payments are truly prohibiting a lot of people from living their dreams and being able to contribute to the economy. Exactly.
So what do we do about it?
Yeah. So the first step, I would say, it's twofold, because there's individual responsibility when it comes to the financial system. There's individual responsibility, and then there's the system at large, and they have to work in tandem. We can't have a completely benevolent system and then just expect, as an individual, that you don't have to do anything, and vice versa. We can't expect the individual to shoulder all of the burden and not have a system that works to support them. And so from the individual perspective, I would say the first step is to look at different ways to earn additional income. So really start wearing that entrepreneurial hat. If someone that's listening is in a traditional 9-to-5, corporate job where they receive a paycheck every 2 weeks, start looking at opportunities where you can earn additional money through, the most obvious ones are through driving Lyft, for instance, but there's also other side hustles that you can start. But learning how to create wealth on your own terms is going to be an incredibly important skill. The second step, I would say, is to get educated on the political side of the student loan system. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren to a certain extent, Marianne Williamson, all candidates for the Democratic ticket, have shared that they are interested in canceling, if not all, most of the student loan debt. And so understanding why they are pushing for those policies is going to be really important, because it will educate each and every one of us in terms of how the system has been built against us.
Yeah, and to that point, it's about education. When I started taking out student loans, I had no idea what I was doing. If I did, I would have said no. Absolutely not. I remember sitting on the computer with my mother, filling out the FAFSA applications, and now looking back, she had no idea either. And for many years, I carried a lot of blame around, and I really begrudged my parents, right, for like allowing me to put myself in that position and set myself up what I thought was for failure later on in life. And then I realized my parents weren't very educated when it came to predatory lending or financing education through, loans, essentially solely through loans. And you can't teach somebody what you don't know. And so it's not just the personal responsibility, it's a generational issue, right? Like a lot of parents are not teaching their kids about financial stability. They're not teaching their kids at all because they don't know. And I really hope that the fact that this problem is becoming a national issue and is literally part of the platform of several candidates for president, I really hope that's a wake-up call to a lot of not just young people, not just young adults, but parents of these adults, that you have to understand it didn't start with us, right? Like this goes back generations. Would you agree or just no?
Oh, absolutely agree. You shared so many great points. Wealth is built over generations. The money, the magic of money, when it works for you, is this idea called compounds. And so money gains momentum with the generations. And so, the idea that, for instance, a parent can pass down money to their child, that money throughout the years has gained interest over time. And that's how wealth is built. That's how long-term wealth is built. The same thing, though, happens in the reverse. Lack of financial education can be passed down as well. And so the idea of poverty or scarcity within a generation can be passed down to the next generation as well. And so, yeah, there are a couple of things that have to happen in order to break that. One is financial education needs to be in schools. There's no reason why it's not mandatory in every public K through 12 schools. There's no reason why it's not mandatory in colleges. There's no reason why it's not mandatory before you sign that student loan document. A lot of times students are given their student loan paperwork a couple of weeks before they to start school, and you have to sign that paperwork before you're able to enroll in classes. And so there needs to be a system in place where this information is more transparent, and it can't be up to the parents to have to teach it to their children, because for some parents, they weren't given this information. It's also, they didn't come up in a time when school was so expensive.
Right.
Things like interest capitalization, which is it's a legal practice. I say it's amoral and should be illegal, is something that allows student loan payments. If you or your husband or anyone were to look at their student loan payments, oftentimes, if you sit down and do the calculations, the amount of money that you pay each month doesn't reflect the reduction in your total balance due. A lot of the reason for that is this thing called interest capitalization, which is totally legal practice of adding essentially more interest to your payment. But in my mind, it's amoral. And at the very least, it needs to be shared in a transparent way as to how they're calculating your payment and how they're applying it to the principal. And so things like that are part of the financial education process. Now that you know that term, like, you're going to be able to speak to why this is happening with our student loan payments.
That's incredible.
The other piece is that we shouldn't have a system where a 17 or 18-year-old needs to be concerned that they're going to be bamboozled. I mean, the system needs to be so clear and transparent so that you as a student, perhaps maybe you didn't even have parents. We have a guest on the show, Miracle, where her mom was not in the picture. Her dad has never been in the picture. She was the one taking care of her grandmother. Who is she supposed to turn to for this information? And so the system needs to be in such a way where, as a bright young person who's eager to create a new path for him or herself, should be able to do so freely without worrying that the adults in the situation are trying to rob them of their future.
And to that point, when so many people, literally a generation of people, are burdened by student loan debt and really have no idea how to get out of it, how does that impact, in your opinion, their relationship with money in the rest of their life?
Oh my gosh, this impacts their relationship with money, with their relationship with other people in so many ways. I mean, the relationship with money, it's interesting. For our generation, who most of us either graduated in 2008 or right around that time, where we clearly saw a disconnect between what we were told to be true and what actually happened. So 2 things we were told to be true. 1, the value of your home will always increase. Mm-hmm. 2, go to college and you'll be able to not only pay back your student loans, you'll be able to create a beautiful life, financial freedom, financial independence. Well, we saw that in a very critical point in our life not to be true. And so there is this element of distrust that the millennial generation is holding on to. I mean, you shared that some of that distrust can manifest into blame. Like, we're trying to figure out where this blame is supposed to be placed, and we'll misplace it. We'll place it on the people that didn't know any better. They were only trying to support us and do do the best that they can with what they knew and what they had. And then it also manifests, we can also self-sabotage because
Yes.
sometimes that blame turns inward, that we should have known better. And so what does that look like? We are less confident in our ability to ask for a raise or to negotiate for ourselves or to put ourselves out there, to take a leap of faith and to start a business, or to, maybe it's not even a business, just go after an opportunity, because we've seen that time and time again that has worked against us. So in terms of our relationship with money, that's how I see it impacting. It's impacting our ability to really put ourselves out there, which is what you need to create financial freedom. Financial freedom comes after you take risks. And the other way it impacts us is our relationships with people. The romantic relationships are so closely tied to our relationship with money.
So true.
And we bring that element of distrust into our romantic relationships, and our distrust manifests in our inability to truly communicate what money means to us. We have a couple on the show, Max and Megan. They're so cute. They're newlyweds. They had 2 kids pretty quickly. So they're newlyweds with 2 children. And unfortunately, he got hit by a car. And so he went on disability, and then she lost her job. And so here they are, newlyweds, 2 kids, trying to pay their mortgage, trying to cover all the bills and expenses. And they're hit with this financial crisis.
Wow.
And it was interesting. At first, when we started working with them, Megan shared that they had 4 credit cards. Come to find out, they actually had 12 credit cards.
Oh my gosh, what?
Max didn't know about most of the credit cards. Most of the credit cards weren't being paid off. And so on the surface, it seems like it's a financial problem, right? Like we need to get both of you making more money, and we need to figure out a payment plan around this debt. But when we dig deeper, the issue is actually their lack of communication.
Correct. Yeah.
She doesn't feel comfortable sharing her financial insecurities or needs with him. And so that is what our generation is holding on to. It's this distrust, and then our inability to communicate when we need help, when we want to share our dreams, because we've been basically burned so many times financially.
And when you go through an experience where the experience tells you that taking risks lead to bad things, then you no longer want to take risks. And that experience communicates to your mind, don't go there, don't do that, that's bad. And so we keep ourselves boxed in, and we don't take risks, and we don't believe in ourselves, and we don't take initiative, and we just stay stuck.
Absolutely. Yes, you said that so eloquently.
And there's another side of this, because I was watching one episode with Obi, I believe his name is, and he seems like a really nice person. But when he started talking about buying $800 shoes and, making $80,000 a year, and then paying for his little brother's tuition bill for his little brother's school, and also paying $1,600 in rent, and not to mention everything he buys when he goes out for a night on the town. How indicative is he of the rest of our generation? Because it blew my mind, it just blew. I remember him saying how much his shoes cost, and he said, yeah, I probably didn't need those. And your co-host was like, yeah, nobody does. Like, why do you need Asian? So how indicative is he of just the personal responsibility millennials do or do not take when it comes to our finances, in your opinion?
Sure. Well, Obi was so fun. It's interesting. I feel that Obi is a great example, even if it's not $800 pair of shoes, it could be another purchase. What I hope folks, when watching that show, gain from that episode is the importance of mindfulness. One, so a purchase in and of itself is not bad or good. That's my philosophy. It is, what's your intention with this purpose? I've certainly bought an expensive pair of shoes. I've bought expensive things that on the surface someone else may say, well, you don't need that. And they would be absolutely correct. However, the intention may have been, well, this is for my business. In Obi's case, he's in an industry where your looks precede your resume, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever the case, whatever the perspective is. He's in an industry where looks and appearance does matter. And so if he made those purchases intentionally and mindfully, that would be a different conversation. In talking with Obi, it didn't appear that many of the purchases were mindful or with intention. However, and so that would be my advice to him is, when you do make these purchases, what is the intention? Let's be mindful. And that's the message I hope that many of us as millennials take away from it, because the way the economy works and the way money is supposed to work is it's supposed to flow. There's no value in hoarding money. It's like, it's currency, it's a current, it's a flow, it's a river. It's supposed to circulate. And so when we do spend money with intention and we do spend it mindfully, we're not only benefiting, but the person who owns that or is selling us that item is benefiting. That could be the pair of shoes he bought could have been an indie designer, and that could have been like the big sale of the month for them. So so the key is to be intentional and mindful. And that means that you can't just spend willy-nilly and be, swiping your credit card everywhere. However, it's also not effective to completely dismiss purchases as well, because that's where we run into trouble with the economy. That's how the recession is exacerbated, when people constrict and don't spend money. Obi was also an interesting case because he graduated from Boston College, maybe down the street from you, with $75,000 in student loan debt. Obi was a track star. It's a D1 school. He ran track all 4 years, was on honor roll all 4 years, set 10 records at that school. Boston College last year made $32 million off of their student athletic program. So that's the other conversation that needs to be had. Yes, there's individual responsibility on Obi's side to be mindful about his purchases. We also need to talk about, why do we have student athletes that graduate with debt while the school is making money off of their backs? This is where the conversation has to be in tandem, because if Obi didn't graduate with that amount of debt, he would have been free to spend his money in the way that he wanted to. And, more or less, right? He's not making millions of dollars, but the fact that he graduated with debt is the reason why he's so constricted, whereas the school made so much money off of his back, coupled with all the other students that went there. So that was an interesting case, because that's a clear situation where the conversation has to be on both sides.
Okay, we're getting down to the wire, so I'm going to try to do these marathon questions. But I noticed in the episode with Obi, you pointed out how much he's making a month, how much he's putting out, how much he's bringing in. In terms of personal finance, is there sort of a scale or a point of reference that people who are suffering from student loan debt, because they are suffering, is there some sort of scale or budget equation that they should sort of stay within when they are looking to be more financially sound and pay down their student loan debt?
Absolutely. So I recommend everyone doing a weekly money date. I call this a money and mimosas date, so you can treat yourself to a mimosas afterwards. But during this money date, what you want to do is look at the last 7 days. How much money did I spend? How much money did I bring in? What are my financial goals? Am I getting closer? Am I not getting closer? It's really a time for you to stop, reflect, breathe, and really take in the moment and see where you're at financially. In terms of how to allocate the money coming in, I like to use the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% goes towards fixed expenses, 30% goes towards fun, and then 20% goes towards your financial goals, which is a combination of saving and paying down debt. Now, that is a structure that you can use and then mold it to your own needs. So the 20%, for instance, like if you have a pretty clear goal that you want to own a home in the next 5 years, then that 20% is going to be higher. If paying down your student loan debt completely is a big goal of yours, then that 20% is going to be higher. So just use that as a framework and then and adjust it according to what your goals are.
And what do you think about online apps that help with money management or investing? Like, for example, I use Acorns and I find that it is amazing because I don't have to think about anything. I just set how much money I want it to take out of my account each month. And then I know on top of that, every purchase I make with my debit card, all the change is then also going to my savings in Acorns, which will then get invested. I love that. Are there any other apps like that that you can recommend or that you just support?
Yeah, Acorns is amazing. In terms of tracking your finances, I love using Personal Capital. It's a really great way for you to just see so Personal Capital attaches to your bank and credit cards, any investments that you have. So you can clearly see where your money is going each and every month and where your net worth is, because net worth is one of the biggest indicators of wealth. And so it helps you calculate that. And then, yeah, beyond that, there are a ton of other options, but Acorns and Personal Capital are two of my favorites.
Awesome. So I'm on the right track.
You are for sure. Yeah, kudos to
Okay.
you.
Thanks. Last question, and it's a fun one. How did you come to be on Going From Broke? Tell us about that, and what was it like when you got that call?
Oh my gosh. So this was probably really similar to me becoming an NFL cheerleader. I had no experience in acting. My friend who's a life coach in LA sent me this casting listing that was calling for someone who wanted to talk about money and millennials. And the listing said you had to have a reel, you had to have all these things, and I had none of them. I had a website and a LinkedIn resume, a LinkedIn profile. And as soon as I sent in my application, which was like 20% complete because I didn't have all the things that most actors or people that are in the entertainment space has, the casting director emailed me back within like 10 minutes. He emailed me back, said he wanted to hop on the call, and he wanted to hop on a call pretty much immediately. And I was out with friends.
Oh my gosh.
Having a mimosa. And so I'm like, shoot, like I'm
Oh
supposed to
my
be like
gosh.
sharp and like, but it turned out fine. And so that's where it started. Then after that, I had a few in-person meetings with the producers, and then a couple of more interviews, and then all of a sudden I was casted, and it was an incredible experience. I mean, I learned there's so much that goes into making a TV show that I had no idea. Oh my gosh, yeah, you're in the TV world. Amazing. The amount, it's incredible. Like the finished product does such little justice to all of the
Yeah,
people and the work that has to go into producing it. And
it's
so
so true. So true.
yeah, it was, and yeah, I'm just really blessed that I had the opportunity to be able to experience that.
And again, it's on Crackle, right? Which is under Sony, I believe.
Yeah, so Crackle.com it's co-owned by Sony and Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, who's one of the other producers of the show. And most of us are familiar with Chicken Soup for the Soul, the books, that they bring that same vibe to the show of compassion and love.
So it's really nice to see a reality show where people are not throwing glasses at each other and trying to tear each other's hair out. So that's also amazing. In 2019, that's pretty awesome.
I'm glad we finally came to this level of consciousness where we can showcase real people just having just honest conversations with each other.
Exactly. And that's an online sort of website, correct?
Yeah,
Crackle.
so it's completely free. Crackle.com. You can sign on and start streaming the episodes immediately.
That is amazing. You are doing so many wonderful things. And I just want to commend you because first for believing in yourself and just, so many examples you've shared with us. So I'm sure there are many more examples that we don't know about where you just decided, I'm going to do this and I don't care what anybody thinks. And I don't care if they think I'm unqualified because I am qualified and I'm going to do it anyway. And so that's really inspiring to see. And I just want to recognize that. And you should feel good about that. I'm sure you do. But I also want to highlight how it's brought you to so many places in your life that have been life-changing for you because you had that faith in yourself and you were able to take, the next step in your journey to do something that most people wouldn't have the courage to do. So pretty awesome. And I hope our listeners take away that as well as all of this financial advice. So anyway, finally, what's next for you? Are you working on any other projects? And where can people find you online?
Thank you so much, Nia, for those kind words and for This amazing conversation, really. So what's next for me? Well, we just surpassed 5 million views on Going From Broke. So
Wow.
we may have a second season. We'll see. And people can find me on moneyandmimosas.com. I share more of this information around tangible tactical financial tips, as well as information around about the broader financial system, so that we can be educated in our individual lives and also be educated about the system at large.
Yeah, there was one other question that I said I was going to ask you, that I promised I was going to ask you, and I don't know if we have time because I know we've been running over, but it's important that I ask you. Can you just tell us how Money and Mimosas, what the approach is to financial education and how that's different from other resources?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that. So at Money and Mimosas, we're a small team. My hope is that it really gives our readers the skills and the tools that they need to elevate their net worth and their self-worth, because I see the two in tandem. When we believe in ourselves and we're confident, that shows up in our financial world. And so our approach is different in that we truly see the person as a whole person. We approach it from the financial piece, of course, giving you tactical information, but we also understand that my definition of financial freedom is going to be different than yours, Nia, and we want to be mindful of that and leave space for that definition. We also understand that financial stress manifests in the body just like any other stress. It impacts your ability to think clearly. It can impact your physical well-being. And then we also open the conversation to those that want to explore the spiritual side of money, spiritual or metaphysical, whatever word resonates with you. We do believe that there is a consciousness that's beyond human thought that helps with the financial realm, if you will. And so we try to communicate all of those layers and just give you, I like to say it's a buffet table, like pick and choose what you want, leave what you don't want, and hopefully we just provide all the information that you need to be able to elevate your net worth and your self-worth.
Love it, love it, love it. Everybody check it out. It sounds amazing. Network and self-worth. I love it. So anybody who's listening, if you're a first-time listener, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are joining us again, thank you so much for supporting us. And Danetha, just tell me, where can people find you online besides Money and Mimosas?
Sure. So they can find me on most social media networks, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm at Danetha Doe, which is DANETHADOE.
Yep, and for everybody listening, you can find us, the Skooled Millennial, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and also our website. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and download. So thank you so much, Danetha. This was so much fun. I'm so grateful for you for sharing all of these gems with us, and I hope you come back again.
I would love to come back. Thank you again for the opportunity.
All right, have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is in California. Here it gets dark at like 2 p.m., so I have no idea. Oh my gosh, it's like living in Alaska, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is wintertime for sure. Yes.
Thank you. Bye.